if you want to know where the money is for reparations, if you want to know where the money is for that could be used to fix and build up Black communities, your money's going overseas.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
take back the $3.8 billion that we give Israel every year. You can contribute that towards some type of reparations in this country. You take back the money that is a part of the military industrial complex, the defense budget that we have in this country, there's your reparations. So you have to make the connection to foreign policy and domestic policy. Even MLK talked about this long time ago. So to just say, don't talk about foreign policy, just talk about Black issues and what's happening here. The reason why we have a lot of the problems that we have here is because our money is going somewhere else.
And our police are being trained by IDF soldiers. So they go over there, they use those practices, those weapons, those gases, and they learn how to use them against people and find out that they are effective. And they bring them over here and use the same tactics. How can we just ignore foreign policy when it literally goes hand in hand with our lives and theirs? Our struggles are connected because we are all under the fucking iron fist of the empire. You cannot ignore. It's stupid, and you're doing yourself and your people a disservice, because when it comes for you to actually know these things, when it's time for when the time comes for you to actually lead, you're not gonna know what the fuck to do, who to talk to, how to move, who's the leader, who's the freedom fighters. You're not gonna know.
Yeah, and if they can give $3.8 billion to Israel, sit back and think about this for a second, guys. My city alone gives 10 million a year to Israel. We got people here struggling in Boston. $3.8 billion a year sent to Israel. They don't give that kind of money to descendants of slavery in this country. And for the people who tell me that the social programs from the government actually are helping out Black people, there's your benefit or whatever, the majority of people on welfare are white.
And let me address this, Nolan. Please stop spamming. He said you should only pay back reparations to people who directly suffer under. That's every Black person. Because not only did we go through slavery, we had the Jim Crow era. We had all types of eras that fucked us up. Do you not understand what that do to a man's psyche? What that do to a person's psyche born into, like, stop it.
Stop. Hang on. I have a homework assignment for you, Nolan. I want you to look up Dr. Joy DeGrew's post-traumatic slave syndrome lecture. It's about an hour and a half if you have time, and I want you to listen to that. And she actually talks about how the mitochondria DNA, how the trauma is passed down through the mitochondria DNA to all of us Black people who have suffered. And on top of it, you also want to talk about suffering, talk about how the Jewish people during the Holocaust how they have actually inherited suffering down the line through them. If it can happen to Jewish people, that means it can happen to us.
And
so
reparations,
we are literally still being affected by it down to this day. By the way, I am the first among me and my cousins to be born in this country with full rights as a human being. And we're still being discriminated against. Let's not talk about what's going on in Louisiana, where we have still legalized slavery, and most of the people who are there that are the slaves that are picking cotton right now in 2024 in Louisiana and Angola, those are Black people. So when it comes to reparations, it is a debt that is owed, and we're still being enslaved even now down to this day.
And you know what? People try to keep it. People try to keep it on slavery to keep it a hot topic, to make people run away from the conversation. It's not just about slavery. It's about the Jim Crow era. It's about the crack epidemic. The CIA putting drugs in our neighborhoods. The prison industrial complex. This is levels to this shit, man. It's levels to this shit. And every Black person, whether they have made it or not, they have suffered, and they are owed. I don't give a damn if they are a millionaire or a billionaire, whatever. Get what you are owed, because your people suffered. If your people suffered, it's a good chance, a great chance that you suffered, that you came up. My grandmother was a slave from Mississippi. I'm only 32. So can y'all stop acting like this shit was 200 years ago?
Yeah, it was just around the corner. And I'm gonna show you guys this. And you can go to redlining, you can go to credit fraud, the Wall Street defrauding us. But it's the state and the police state that have stolen our wealth. And despite lies from deeply unserious morons like Tim Black and Dr. Cornel West, no one talk about Black issues more than us. Like, for example, I talk about how Black wealth is stolen from us because of the fact that we suffer the most medical debt in this country. You gotta know that's a Black issue. We take Black issues, but we relate it to class because class and race is intertwined. But because their simple minds can't understand that, they don't see us as talking about Black issues. Because savvy Romans, JB, I talk about this all the time. Yeah. I wrote an article about this. In my Substack, you can see an article I wrote about how the police state stole our wealth. Why do you guys think that Black and white racial income inequality is worse right now than it was during the height of the civil rights era? I thought things changed. No, what they did, they stick the police state and they used the police state to steal our wealth. There were studies that show, and this is consistent across multiple states, that civil asset forfeiture impacts Black people around 65%. 65% of all civil asset cases are Black people. You have millions that are stolen. This is just one state, guys. One state. 17 million stolen in one state in South Carolina, a state where we are already poor. They are stealing $17 million for civil asset forfeiture without any way for us to get that money back. And this has been going on for decades. And y'all talking about slavery?
No,
you have any idea how much money just the police state alone has taken from us? And this is the kind of thing that we explain. I'll pass it right to you, Sabby, don't worry. This is the kind of stuff we explain that get white people on board with our argument on reparations. You guys just use liberal identity politics, bullshit, weak arguments. I hear you guys talk about this shit, and you guys sound weak. I flip people on this because I use hardcore class analysis to explain why capitalism had destroyed the Black class. Meanwhile, you guys are talking about race versus class. It's all the above. This is why we deserve reparations. But Sabby, I know you want to chime in. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's the same thing with healthcare. This is another thing I've talked about multiple times. The reason why we don't have universal healthcare in this country is because they didn't want Black people to have healthcare. And in doing that, what they did not realize at the time is that that actually ended up hurting poor and working class white people too. So then comes along affirmative action. You know who benefits the most from affirmative action? White women, not Black people.